talking about what makes you successful in life, relationships, and business. It's time to jump, pivot, and roll with Shannon Stiles and Rachel Murphy.
Hey, this is Shannon Stiles and Rachel Murphy. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Our entire passion for life is helping people to live life to the fullest. That means living the life you were called to live. One of our obsessions for the past several years has been growth and personal development. That's because what we think molds us into the individual that we become. Growth is the gateway to success. And what we found is that if we can help enlighten others, then they start believing in their own dreams and they start living those dreams to the fullest. Our passion for personal development is very simple. We love seeing people take control of their own lives and create the life that they were destined to live. So this podcast has one purpose: to truly help you create the life that you only dream of living. We're going to bring on guests that have been in your shoes and have broken through that barrier of doubt. We'll bring on experts to help pave the way to entering the life that you design and to really live the life you desire. It's going to take change. It's going to take an honest assessment of your thoughts, actions, desires, and goals. So if you're ready to put the excuses behind you and take the first step to unveiling the life you truly desire to live, join us every week as we dive into a new subject that could potentially be a roadblock. But we will show you how to find a detour and how to jump, pivot, and roll until you're living the life that you truly desire to live. Now, before we start on this journey, we believe it's very important for you to know us. We wouldn't expect you to follow anyone just because they asked you to. A few questions we'd like to ask you. Do you ever have thoughts that those dreams must be for other people because it's never worked out for you so far? Or have you ever started dreaming, or have you ever dreamed about what it would be like to live the life you designed, but then you were derailed by your thoughts, or worse yet, someone else had said something to you that derailed you? Well, now I have kind of the most important questions to ask you. And that is, have you ever felt as though you missed your calling? Do you ever get that feeling that there's more to me inside? Well, if you answered yes to any of these questions, then you're in the right place, because we're going to share with you how to jump, pivot, and roll when these thoughts, disbeliefs, and opinions arise that don't serve you and are flat out untrue. So we'd like to begin this by introducing ourselves. I'm Shannon Stiles.
And I'm Rachel Murphy.
And I'd like to start by asking you a question, Rachel.
Okay.
What got you started on this journey?
What got me started on this journey? Frustration. Probably frustration from living a life that didn't feel authentic.
So you're saying, I said enough is enough.
Enough is enough. I wanted more. I didn't really know what more was. I just knew I wasn't fulfilled. I had been mom and wife, right? We play those roles, or we are those roles. But I didn't know me. I lost who I wanted to be, or didn't even know what that really looked like. And so that's really kind of where I started. And then I found great mentors and wonderful best friends to kind of help me along that path.
And I'm sure a lot of our listeners can relate to that. And they've had that feeling before, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Enough is enough.
Oh, yeah.
And it's at that point, when you reach that point that enough is enough, you actually change.
And it's amazing. It's like the butterfly finally starts to break out of the cocoon, right?
It's very exciting to watch.
So I have a question for you.
Excellent.
Shannon
Let's do it.
Stiles.
And by the way, I want the listeners to know that these are not prepped questions.
No.
We don't know what the other one is going to ask, and that is a dangerous situation.
All right. What's one piece of advice you would give your younger self if you could go back and hug that young woman and tell her something from where you're at? What would you tell her?
That is so funny. I think that we think alike because I have a question kind of like this for you.
Oh, no.
So this is actually an easy one. And several years ago, I went to a conference. It was 10X Growth Con. And I met Mr. Ed Milet.
Oh, we love Ed Milet.
Heart goes out to him. I truly love him. He walked off the stage and I met him backstage and he came up to me and he said, you know, every once in a while, I get this feeling inside that God has me there to speak to one individual and I'm supposed to be speaking to them directly. And that person is you. And he told me, he gave me the greatest gift I've ever received. And that was a little nugget of knowledge. And that gift was that everything in life happens for us, not to us. And that was huge because I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it. I had lived life for so long with this victim mentality. You know, why does this happen to me? I treated them well. I did things for them. You know, it always happens to me.
And I think
Right?
our listeners have felt that
Probably.
many, many times.
I think it's a very common feeling, right?
Yeah.
But once you have that aha moment and you really dissect what Ed was saying to me, that everything in life happens for us, not to us. Meaning everything in life, God can turn it around and make it work for our best, for the best outcome, I guess, right?
Yeah.
That is so powerful because what you do is you start looking at a situation and I'm gonna share while we go through this podcast, we're gonna share a lot about ourselves.
Oh, yeah. We're going to show you guys all the
Good, bad,
and ugly.
different. That's right. And, you know, unfortunately, or fortunately, I should say, my best lessons have been ugly.
They have.
They
That's where
really
our
have.
greatest growth has come from.
So, you know, I've learned to really grab onto that. But I say that because an example of life happening for me and not to me, several years ago, my husband and I had some marital problems, and he actually cheated on me. Now, I do have permission to talk about this.
Thank you.
Exactly. But it was for the best because, first of all, I didn't see my husband as the amazing individual that he is. And I didn't see my husband for the broken individual that he is.
That is awesome, Shannon. That is such a good point.
I had him on this pedestal. And if you have someone on a pedestal or you're on a pedestal, it's really hard not to fall off. And when you fall off, you will break.
It hurts.
It does. It does. So this happened for us.
Right.
Because it not only opened my eyes, but it also opened his. And now he realizes what a gem he has as well. And it actually strengthened our marriage. So that's my piece of advice.
I like
Everything
it.
happens for you, not to you.
All
yes,
right.
and I'm long-winded. So Rachel, next question. If you got to ask God for anything in the world, what would you ask for?
Oh, boy, Shannon, pulling out the big guns here. So I have one regret in my entire life.
Do tell.
When I married my second husband, who is my mister, my sweetheart, I let my son go live with his grandparents. It's what my ex-husband wanted. It's what my son wanted. He was only 7.5, 8. and not old enough to make that decision for sure. And it was what my husband did not want, but I wanted things to just be easier. And I didn't have the strength in me then, Shannon, that I do now, because that never would have happened. I didn't want to fight everybody. I was a peacemaker.
Right.
And so I let my son go live with his grandparents, who are wonderful people. I don't want to make it sound like they weren't.
And you're very appreciative that they were there
for
my
him. Gosh, I am. But that changed things for my son. And that did more damage to him mentally, even though it's what he had asked for, because all of a sudden he did not think that he was as important as his sisters. So if I could turn to God and say to him one thing, I would say, can I have that moment back?
Do-over.
To do it over. I'm actually teary here because that is truly the only regret of everything that's ever happened to me that I have.
You know, and you know my belief that we shouldn't have regrets because they're all
happens
lessons,
for
right?
you, not to you, right?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Tyler's an incredible individual. He's very, very gifted.
Oh, so smart.
A great songwriter.
Yes.
I mean, just very, very gifted.
Yes.
And he's a smart kid.
Yes.
And he knows the philosophy of everything happens for you, not to you.
He does.
So, well.
But, so that would be the one thing I would ask for
this.
God.
I want to answer this one.
Okay. Answer it.
So if I could ask God for anything in the world, it would be for the ability to learn faster.
Oh, that's good. Learn everything faster?
Whatever I want to learn, the ability to learn it quickly.
Okay, so I have a backup question to that then. Do you feel like if you learned it faster, you might miss some of the growth lessons that would happen?
Okay, that's a great question. My definition of learning means to comprehend. So I would say no. I would answer no.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons why I would want the ability to learn faster is because, you know, I don't want anybody to give anything to me. It goes back to the old saying, you can give a man a fish and feed him for a day, or you can lead him to the pond and, you know,
teach him how to fish.
Right.
Right.
I have ADD. I am dyslexic, I swear. It takes me probably an hour to read a page, whereas most people, it doesn't take that long. It takes me probably 2 hours to comprehend it. So I believe that if I had the ability to read and learn quickly, oh my gosh, I would be, I'm already pretty unstoppable.
I was going to say, you're already unstoppable.
But that would just put me on a totally different level. But I'll get there, you know.
All right, so here's mine for you.
Yes.
Ready? What has been your biggest aha moment besides the Ed Milet thing?
Okay, I can share that with you also. And hopefully the listeners will kind of understand this and they'll see this within themselves, because honestly, I think that what I'm about to share, if you can comprehend this and if you can find this within yourself, that's the breakthrough for most people. So I went to Tony Robbins and I had an intervention with Tony Robbins during one of his events, and it was incredible. And I'm going to share with you the questions that he asked me. So the first question he asked me, was, how was my business? And I said, oh, it's okay. And of course, Tony's way said, it sucks. Go ahead. And it didn't suck, but it wasn't great. But okay, so it sucked. So anyway, the next question he asked me was how my relationship with my father was. Now, my father had recently passed. He's passed, a couple years ago. But before that, my father and I love my father, and my father loved me, and I know that. But my father, when I was 7 years old, divorced my mother, and he was an alcoholic. And once he left, he remarried and no longer was an alcoholic. He got a new family, but he picked up becoming a drug addict. Now, he is the only man that I know that could be a very, very successful, functioning drug addict. So when Tony said, how's your relationship? Non-existent. He said, what would it take for your father to be proud of you? And I said, success. I'd have to be successful. And he said, okay, what else would it take? And I said, well, I'd have to be invisible, because with his lifestyle, and I cherished every moment I spent with him. And I never wanted to lose that time. So that was how I felt. If I was invisible, but I was there with him and I was Shanny, maybe he would want to spend more time with me. So think of this. As a business owner, you're very, very successful, but yet you also have to be invisible. Those don't mix.
Not at all.
Those don't match.
No.
So that inner conflict, every time I'd be really, really, really successful, I would disappear. Like that. I would just disappear. And my success would come down to a comfortable level, and then all was right in the world. And then I'd remember, but I want my dad to be proud. And, I'd go up. So the other thing that he shared with me, or he asked me how my relationship with my mother was. Non-existent. And that one's a little different because my mother's still alive. My sister, mother, and I have always had this triangle, and one person was always on the out. And it's a miserable place to live because you're either putting someone down or you're left out. And I just couldn't play that putting each other down and game anymore. So unfortunately, we don't talk to each other. And he said, well, what would it take to make your mother proud? And I said, that'll never happen. I'll never be enough. So this is another inner conflict I have. I have to be successful, invisible, and I'll never be enough. How's that going to happen? It's not.
Right.
So what Tony helped me to learn was how to see these inner conflicts that we have and how to adjust them and how to change that story in your life so that you're not playing the same story over and over again, and you can break those habits.
Yeah, that's really good. And, I have that as well. Mine is perfection. Mm-hmm. It's got to be perfect.
Good luck with that.
Fear of success and fear of failure.
Right. Yeah.
A good example is this podcast. I had this dream 2.5 years ago. In one day, I wrote all these things out and I started getting all these things in line. And it wasn't really until we sat down and talked and figured out that we had something to share together. And you're like, we're doing it. And now we're doing it. And we're so grateful to our friends and our guests for being here. Yeah. But guys, it was, what if it's not good enough and nobody listens? And what if it's really good and then it's expected to continue to be great?
And that's something, Rachel,
that's
that
huge for me.
People don't realize that's an inner conflict. I mean, they can easily see the fear part of it.
Right.
What if it's not good? But the one that they can't see is, what if it's successful?
Right.
What will people expect of me? Will I ever be able to have my own personal time? Will my life change with my family? There are so many inner conflicts that you have to face.
Will my friends still like me if I'm super successful? What if I start making more money than my husband? Will he feel threatened? I mean, the interesting thing, Shannon, is I am more fearful of success than I am of failure.
I think that's because we know failure is a part of success.
Right. And I think that's for a lot of our listeners. Like, you're just stuck in that, oh my goodness. I love to call it the imposter syndrome, right? Is that we just think it has to be a certain way. And honestly, I think we just have a message, and it needs to be authentic, and it needs to be real, and it needs to be heard. So here we are. You're hearing us.
But let me tell you, and we've agreed that we can share each other's.
Absolutely.
We can share each other's journey.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, it took me calling Rachel saying, okay, this is happening.
Right.
Come on, today. I need it on the calendar. This is happening. And it's not always been me that's been the strength. I want to point that out. There are many times that Rachel is my strength. But you really need a person.
You do. You really need a person that you can show all those dark corners to, that you can be 100% real, that you can cry the ugly cry with, right?
And do you know, here's a little bit of useless information. I love throwing that out there. You're going to get a lot of useless information, and you're going to get a lot of golden nuggets.
That's right.
So, you know why we cry so ugly? I think you know.
Why do we cry so ugly?
You know,
Why?
It was in the body language course that we did. Because we don't use those muscles.
Oh.
We don't use those muscles very often. Now, if you're a pretty crier, you got bigger problems in crying.
Yes, you do.
You've been practicing.
You have way too much. So, one of the things that you just said, Shannon, that I also want to bring up, because one of the questions I was going to have for you was your favorite book. And of course, knowing you, I know it's the Bible.
Yes.
But we have some others that have led us. And I think that a lot of times when we're taking a course, or we're at a seminar, or we're reading a book, so many of us will do so much, and we get this like fire hydrant trying to get a sip of water, right? Yeah. We just need a sip, but we're like just almost drowning in information. And so one of the things that I am so grateful that we have learned together is to find that one thing. Like, you went to that conference, and it was amazing. You heard amazing people.
It was
right?
a 5-day conference. There were like 36 speakers. I don't know how many there were, but it was nonstop.
It was nonstop from morning to night. But
walked
you walked away one nugget that changed everything for you.
It was 100% worth the $15,000 ticket.
Yeah, this girl spent some money on personal development, people, but it's been worth it. Every bit of it.
Here's the thing. I'm going to answer your question about the book, and you make a very good point about the fire hydrant. If you try to take everything that everyone says and make it you'll never be authentic.
Ever. And that's the most important thing in life.
That's right. But you constantly have to put yourself in a position to learn and grow. And when you're doing that, listen for that one nugget. Mm-hmm. Even while reading a book, sometimes we'll read a book and we'll get to that one nugget and we'll say, that's it. I got it. Yep. I don't have to move on. I don't have to learn anymore. And sometimes I'm going to share my favorite book.
Okay.
But in my favorite book, I took it and I got the nuggets that I needed, but I don't use it faithfully the way it's written. And I'll explain that in a minute. So it's very hard for me to choose one book. Think and Grow Rich, Millionaire Next Door. There are so many amazing
The magic
books.
of thinking big.
Oh, yeah. Positive Dogs. I mean, just a simple, easy, good book.
Daring Greatly.
Yeah,
love
great
that.
books. So many amazing books that have truly changed my life, but there's one. And this was in the very beginning of my personal development. I was at a conference in Las Vegas, and I asked one of the speakers, what book he would recommend. And he recommended Hal Elrod's The Miracle Morning.
Love that book.
Now, it's an amazing book, but what it did for me was it gave me structure.
Right.
So I'm a very, my husband is very planner. I am so spontaneous. I think you're the planner. I'm the spontaneous, right? If you were to call me up and say, hey, we're leaving in 15 minutes. You want to go on a float trip? I'd say, no problem. Let me call my husband. I'll go grab a swimsuit and I'll borrow your clothes, right? That's the kind of person I am.
She might ask if she has time to make cookies first.
Yeah,
guys.
I would like to make cookies, but that's the kind of person I am. I'm all about jumping in and figuring it out, right?
Yep.
Well, I realized that being a business owner, you have to have some structure. And this book taught me to get structure because it says the first thing in the morning, wake up early. If you're not getting up early, guys, you are missing. The early bird gets the worm. That is so true, right?
Absolutely.
You are missing out because I'll tell you what, if you're not getting up early, I guarantee by the time you get out of bed, Rachel and I have already had a day's worth of work in.
Absolutely. I beat my rooster up. I love it.
Floyd. So anyway, what this book did for me was it helped me to structure that morning.
Yep.
And sometimes it's your savers. Sometimes I write in my journal, which is your script. Sometimes maybe I'll read the Bible. Well, I read the Bible every day, but every day I go out and I walk. Every single day.
Yep.
I start my day the same every single day, which you've got a very good tip on starting your day.
Make your bed.
That's right. It's as simple as that because
make your bed.
Then you've accomplished something before you even get in the shower.
Yep.
And
though if your husband's still in it, you can wait till he makes it to his shower.
Yeah, exactly. But it was that book that really changed my life because it made it so that it could happen to me.
Right. Routines, having a routine is so important to our success. And, there are so many people out there, Shannon, who give us lists, right? You got to do 1 through 12 or 1 through 5.
1 through 12 is not your list. That's their list. You pick out of it, right?
That's right. You pick what you stay true to.
Yes.
Is the routine that works for you and that changes your game.
I agree.
So,
And don't think you're a failure because you don't do everything on somebody else's list.
Absolutely. If it's working for you,
yeah, I think
that's good enough.
Rachel, I think that's one of the things that kept me from being successful before I started reaching success. I think it was because I would read about these wonderful people that I really admired, and I'd try to be like that, and I'd fail every single time.
You know why, Shannon?
Because that's not me.
You were taking that whole fire hydrant and you were trying to get drowning. A sip.
Yes.
Instead of finding your nugget.
Yeah. So if that's something that the listeners that you're doing right now, it's okay to take whatever someone says and personalize it. Honestly, it's not okay. That's what you have to do.
It's necessary. It is the way that you create your own success path.
That's right. Okay, so is it my turn to ask you?
It is. I'm worried.
Right. So my next question to you is, what does loyalty mean to you?
Ooh, boy, that's a good one. Loyalty to me is the hard. It is the being there and figuring out a way, even when it's really hard.
Okay.
It is the standing by that person no matter what. It's seeing through to the end. And I will be honest, guys, one of the things that I can struggle with is time management. And I'm working on that.
Block your time.
Block your time. She's so good at that. Like, I'm the planner, but she's so good at that, guys.
You know why I'm good at that? And I'm going to interrupt real quick.
Why?
I am good at that because, all right, back up. What do I love to do? Like,
role play.
Role play is one, yes. And dress up, right?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
That's what I mean by role play.
Like, I love to, you invite me to a Halloween costume party, I'm there.
She is there looking, smashing, whatever
Christmas
it is.
time, I am Mrs. Claus.
She is. The jingle bell hat and the boots.
You name it. I've got a poodle skirt at home because I'm ready for that party. I love to dress up.
And the saddle shoes.
Oh, yeah. I've got it all, right? But I think that's why I'm so good at blocking my time, because I look at it as not as another task that I have to do. I look at it as I need to change my role. So right now, I am here to help my younger self, right?
I love that.
Right now, I am speaking to my younger self, trying to speed up their journey and speed up their success. Well, when I leave here, I'm going to go home and I'll jump into my little Wonder Woman outfit and I become the world's best wife. And I play different roles instead of getting different tasks done. And then I just love it. I look forward to every single thing I have to do throughout the day.
And that is such a great routine that works for you. I mean, and honestly, it's probably something I need to implement more, because when you were sharing it with me and I was doing it, I was doing much better. So
it is kind of hard to get into it, though.
It is, especially if you're not much of a role player. And I mean, girl, that is you 100%.
But I have to tell you, practice makes perfect, right? You'll never be perfect. I was kidding when I said that, but you'll get much better.
I know.
Right? So play those roles.
Yeah. And I like when you were sharing that with me, how you talked about, just having six roles. And because we can create a lot of roles and then overwhelm ourselves. Yeah. And I think that's one of the really important things that we do, guys, on that success path, is we don't overwhelm ourselves with everybody else's expectations. Doesn't mean you ignore them, but you have to place priority on them.
Right.
And when you're picking out the roles, you're placing priority on those. Yeah. So Shannon, now it's my turn.
Let's go.
Okay, I'm going to return that question to you. So what do you think loyalty means?
So now I have a little bit of a different view on this. Loyalty to me, and I know you guys are going to say, man, she is selfish, but I don't care. So loyalty to me means being true to myself, being true to my virtues, to my beliefs, to my identity. Loyalty means that, honestly, I don't care what the rest of the world thinks. And I'll give you a good example of this. When I bought the insurance agency, I own an insurance agency, and I had this mission. My mission is to educate and protect my community. And I don't look at the numbers. And I know that's crazy for a business owner not to look at the numbers, but I see this more as a mission. And I was true to myself. My husband in the beginning was like, everybody's telling you this. Great for everybody. Well, so-and-so does it this way. Great for him. I'm not so-and-so. But what happened when COVID-19 came? Everybody else broke down, and I was ready. I was born for that role. I was born for that moment, because not only was it a time for me to educate people, now I could get out there and I could protect people. And that's when I really was shining. So I think in order to be loyal to anyone else, you have to be loyal to yourself first.
That's a beautiful point. One of the things, I love Brene Brown, right? You hear me talk about her a lot. Yeah. And one of the things that she says, and I'm actually going to do it, I haven't done it yet, but she talks about creating a list of people whose opinions count. And it's a very short list.
It is. You're right.
And she said, it is a very short list. And she said one of the things that she does when she runs into that and she's questioning that is she looks at that list. And if those people who are those outside voices are not on that list, she doesn't hear it.
Yeah.
She doesn't listen to it. She stays true to who she is and her values and her mission. And, Shannon, I have to tell the listeners, that is one of the things that I love and admire so much about you, because, guys, when you're on that path to success, when you're working hard, when you're investing money and time, and you're taking away from some of the other things that people think might be just as important, you get hit with a lot of rocks.
You do.
And sometimes from the very people you love and you're doing this for, the most.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you drop 100-pound boulder on top of this girl, she's going to find a chisel and chisel her way
It's
out.
all about leverage. I will find a way to make it happen, right?
She will. And that's
Thank
one
you,
of
Rachel.
the things that I really want to encourage you guys to do is that's one of the reasons why Shannon and I want to share this and serve you this way, because we've been there. We've had those boulders on us. We've been those boulders to each other at times, unfortunately. Right. It's part of growing. But you know what? You know who you are. You know what you're meant to do. And your opinion, and of course God's, count above all others.
They do. And you know what? That's what I mean by loyalty. You have to be true to yourself.
Absolutely.
I love you with all my heart, but if you go down a path that is against what I believe in, I can't go down that path with you.
Right.
And it's okay. It doesn't mean I don't love you, I don't like you, I don't want to be there with you. It means I'm not compromising myself for someone else.
Right. Right.
And I encourage everyone to be that way.
Well, and if you did, what would we both lose?
Oh, quite a bit.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's finding that balance.
That's one of the reasons you like to be around me.
Yeah.
So if I gave that up.
Oh, yeah. You pull me out and I pull you out. And, we have other people who do that as well. But it's very important to have that in your life. So I highly encourage you, find your person.
That's right.
Find your person.
Because Rachel is the same for me. And, right now you're hearing a lot of kudos to me, but there have been times that I've picked up the phone and I've called Rachel and I've just been at my breaking point, what I thought was my breaking point. And what I love about her is she's allowed me to have those feelings. She's allowed me to feel it. She's allowed me to go through the motions. And then we have this great knack of not letting each other stay there.
Right. I mean, I get cards. I'll get flowers in the mail or flowers with a little card and a knock on the front door with lunch already made. And it's like, okay, you've had your moment. It's time to move on. And guys, those are some of the best gifts ever. Because why? We need to jump, pivot, and roll. Sometimes we're getting punched, right?
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes life just slaps you upside the head. And that's okay because it's happening for a reason. But have that person that helps you get out of that bed for sure.
That's right. And it's got to be the person that you don't mind if they come in and see you with that ugly cry face and with your hair a mess
with your hair not showered for a week,
So I want to share one more little tip for you.
Okay.
For any of the listeners. And this is childlike, but I want you to be a child. I want you to go back to being a child. One of the things I cherish the most about Rachel and my relationship is we have girls' weekends. We have sleepovers.
We do.
Because those are when we have some of our most creative moments. So stop caring about what anybody else thinks.
Please.
Find that inner child. Let that child out. Because you know what? That's where we find our creativity.
Absolutely. We were having the best walk one day, and it had rained just a little bit.
I loved it.
And guys, I got to tell you, this crazy woman across from me starts jumping in the puddle. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, get over here and jump in the puddle with me. We were laughing. We had the best time. And we're like, jump. Okay. Just jump.
So that's our first lesson in the jump, pivot, and roll.
Just jump.
And we will talk about do it anyway. We've got so many great topics coming up that we just hope that we're serving you well. And we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what topics would you like us to talk about? What professionals would you like us to
who do you want to see local? Yeah. Who do you want to hear from? Whose journey has inspired you? Or what little nugget have you gotten from somebody that maybe somebody else can share? And of course, please leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing because
subscribe.
We want to serve you. That is why we are taking this time to do that, is to serve you because we've been there. We're still there.
And let me encourage you, please, to, we hear all the time one person can't make a difference in the world, and I beg to differ. I think that one person can make a difference in the world, and I encourage you to, if you liked this, to share it out. And if you think of somebody specific while you're watching it, please tag them, because we might have said something and we might have that one nugget that person needs to hear that will change their life forever. And they will credit you for that. So please like and share this out. Join us every week as we go through this journey and we lift each other up and we share. Trust me, I've spent almost $100,000 getting a lot of knowledge that I want to share with you for free.
And life experiences and the things that we have been challenged with and had come up against us, guys, we've been there. We're like I said, we're still there, but together we can grow and we can become more. And we want to do that.
I disagree. We aren't still there. We might have gone through it, but we're not in it. And that's what we're going to teach you. So please tune in next time. Welcome to Jump, Pivot, and Roll.
Bye, guys.